The night sky above the alien city was alive with colors that no human eye had ever seen. Blue rivers of light flowed across the heavens, mixing with streaks of green and purple flames. The tall crystal towers of the city glowed softly, shining like silent guardians under the alien moons. The air itself seemed to hum with energy, and the ground trembled from the movement of machines far below the surface. In this strange and glowing world, 3 young alien girls were walking through the research sector. Their names were Lyra, Sira, and Elen. They were not warriors, not leaders, but students of science. Their skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the colors of the sky, and their eyes were bright like silver stars. They often spent nights together exploring forbidden areas, places where strange objects were stored, things that had fallen from the sky long ago. That night, their steps led them to a hidden chamber at the edge of the city. The chamber was cold and silent, sealed by heavy doors that had not been opened for many cycles. Lyra placed her hand on the wall, and the old stone surface responded to her touch, glowing with ancient symbols. The door groaned as it slowly opened, releasing a wave of cold air into the warm night. Inside the chamber, the girls found rows of broken machines and shattered glass tubes. The air smelled of rust and forgotten time. But in the center of the chamber stood one object untouched by decay, a long metallic pod, smooth and silver, with faint blue lights running along its sides. Unlike the other machines, this pod was still alive. It pulsed softly, like the heartbeat of something sleeping inside. The girls stopped, staring at it in silence. "What is this?" Sira whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and excitement. "A container," Ellen answered. Her silver eyes reflected the blue glow of the pod. "But I feel something is inside." "Good. D." Lyra stepped closer, her curiosity stronger than her fear. The pod was tall, almost as long as her entire body, and it looked completely alien even to them. She placed her palm against the surface. It was cold, yet it vibrated softly, as if it were breathing. She pulled back her hand quickly. "It's alive," she said. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud. None of them had ever seen such a thing before. They had read stories in old archives, myths told to younglings about visitors from the stars, creatures of flesh and bone, different from their own kind. But those were only stories, legends, warnings from the past. Sira shook her head. "No, it cannot be. The archive said those beings were gone, destroyed in the ancient wars." Ellen's gaze remained fixed on the pod. Her voice was quiet but certain. "Then why is this here? Why is it still alive after so long?" The pod gave a sudden hiss, and the girls jumped back. A faint mist escaped from a thin line running across its surface. The blue lights grew brighter, beating faster, like a racing heart. The sound of machinery echoed in the silent chamber, growing louder every second. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "It's opening." The pod's top slowly lifted, and cold white mist poured out, covering the floor like smoke. The girls' silver eyes widened as they leaned forward, trying to see inside. For a moment, the shape inside was only a shadow hidden by the fog. But then, as the mist cleared, they saw it. A body. A strange body with pale skin, strong shoulders, and closed eyes. Its chest was bare, its arms resting at its sides. It looked soft, fragile, but at the same time powerful in a way they could not explain. It was not like them. It was not glowing, not smooth, not alien. It was something entirely different. The girls gasped. None of them had ever seen such a form before. "It is ugly," Sira wailed. Spared, though her voice shook, she could not look away. "Ugly?" Lyra said. "No, it is strange, but not ugly. Look at the shape of the face, the hands. It is almost beautiful." Ellen's eyes widened with fear. She stepped back, pressing against the wall of the chamber. "Do you not understand? This is not just some creature. This is one of them. This is a human." The word fell from her lips like a forbidden spell. The chamber grew colder, the mist heavier, as if the walls themselves had heard the word and remembered ancient battles. For a long moment, none of them spoke. They simply stared at the figure inside the pod. Its chest rose and fell faintly, too faint for their eyes to notice at first. But then Lyra saw it. She pointed with a trembling hand. "It's breathing." Sira's silver eyes grew wide. "No, that's impossible." But they all saw it now. The chest lifted again, and the sound of air moving through lungs filled the chamber. The human was alive. Fear filled the room like a storm. The alien girls could not move, could not think. Their myths had told them of humans. Dangerous, powerful, destructive. And yet here was one, lying before them, sleeping, waiting to wake. Lyra felt her heart pounding. She knew they should run, call for guards, seal the chamber again, but something inside her whispered to stay, to watch, to see what would happen next. The pod gave one final hiss, and the human's fingers twitched. The girls froze, staring at the hand. The movement was small, but it was real. The human was waking, and the alien girls were the first to witness it. The chamber was silent, except for the soft hiss of the pod and the faint sound of breathing that did not belong to them. The alien girls stood frozen, their glowing eyes wide with fear and wonder. They had never seen such a thing before. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to step closer, to study the strange body more carefully, but her legs felt heavy, like stone. Sira gripped her arm tightly, whispering, "Do not move. Do not wake it." But it was already too late. A creature inside the pod, this human, was alive. Its chest rose and fell slowly, its face calm, as though it were only sleeping. Ellen shook her head, silver strands of her hair falling across her glowing eyes. "This is wrong," she said. "Humans are not meant to exist. They were destroyed. They were dangerous." Her voice trembled as if she had just spoken a curse. The others knew the old stories too. Every child in their world had been taught to fear humans. The ancient archives spoke of a race of flesh and bone, short-lived but fierce, a species that had spread through the stars, fighting anyone who stood in their way, a species that once challenged even the great empires of the galaxy. But those were only tales, warnings from the past. None of them ever believed they were true, until now. Lyra could not take her eyes off the human. Its body looked weak compared to their own. Their kind had glowing skin, strong limbs, and energy flowing through their veins. But this creature looked soft, fragile, almost breakable, yet something about it felt powerful, dangerous, like a flame hidden under ashes. "Look at its hands," Lyra whispered. The human's fingers twitched again, curling slightly before falling still. The movement was small, but it made Sira gasp. "It moved!" she cried, pulling Lyra back. Her voice echoed off the cold walls of the chamber. Ellen pressed her hand against the wall as if to steady herself. "We should leave. We should seal this chamber before it wakes." But Lyra shook her head. Her curiosity was stronger than her fear. She stepped closer again, her silver eyes glowing against the pale skin of the human. She studied its face, the strange shape of its nose, the curve of its mouth, the dark hair across its head. "It is different," she said softly. "Not like us, but not ugly either. Look at its eyes." The words froze in her throat. The eyes. Human's eyelids fluttered, and then, slowly, they opened. Two dark eyes stared up at them from the pod, eyes not glowing like theirs, but deep and shadowed, holding something she could not name. All three girls screamed, stepping back at once. The sound of their voices echoed through the chamber like a storm. The human blinked, confused, and turned its head slightly. It made a sound, a low groan, rough and broken. The voice was deep, strange, nothing like their soft musical tones. "He is awake," Sira whispered in terror. She pressed herself against Lyra's side, her body trembling. "What do we do?" Ellen's face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "The stories are true. The humans were never gone. They were only sleeping." The human tried to sit up, his arms weak but steady. The pod hissed again, releasing another wave of cold mist. He coughed, the sound echoing sharply, and then his dark eyes fixed on the three glowing figures in front of him. For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. The alien girls had never been looked at like this before. His gaze was not filled with fear nor confusion, but something sharper, something that made their hearts beat faster. Lyra swallowed hard, forcing herself to speak. Can you hear us?" she asked. Her voice was gentle, but the words were wasted. The human only stared, unblinking, his lips parting as if he wanted to answer but could not. "He does not understand us," Ellen said quickly. "Our language is not his." The human raised a hand, trembling but deliberate. He did not speak, but he gestured, first to them, then to his own chest. His hand rested over his heart. Lyra tilted her head. She could feel meaning in the motion, even if there were no words. "He is saying, he is alive." Sira shook her head furiously. "No, it is a warning. He is dangerous. We must end this now before—" But before she could finish, the human's hand fell, and his eyes closed briefly, as though the effort had drained him. When they opened again, he spoke a single word. It was harsh, strange, but clear. "Human." The sound of that word struck them like thunder. Their myths had spoken of the name. Their teachers had forbidden them to even whisper it. And now, here it was, spoken by the creature itself. Ellen's knees weakened. She felt the chamber spin around her. "It is true," she said in a broken voice. "They are not gone. He is real." Lyra's eyes softened, though her fear was still there. She stared at him, at the fragile body, the strange face, the dark eyes that seemed both weak and unbreakable. "This is not just a discovery," she whispered. "This changes everything." But in the back of her mind, a question burned like fire. If one human had survived, hidden in a pod for so long, how many more were still out there? The chamber no longer felt empty. It pulsed with tension, alive with the sound of something that should not exist. The human sat half-risen in the pod, breath shaky but steady, his dark eyes staring at the glowing alien girls who stood frozen before him. Lyra could feel her chest tighten. She had imagined meeting a creature from another world, but never like this, never so close, never so real. Her mind whispered that she should run, yet her feet stayed locked in place. Sira clung to her arm, trembling. "This is wrong," she hissed. "He should not be here. We should seal him back inside." But the pod had already opened. The mist was gone. The air of the chamber carried only the heavy sound of breathing, theirs and his. The human shifted, trying to pull himself fully upright. His movements were slow, unsteady, but full of purpose. His skin glistened with cold moisture from the pod, his chest rising sharply as though each breath burned. He looked weak, fragile, as though he might collapse at any moment. And yet, when his eyes lifted to meet theirs, Lyra felt a spark of strength inside him. He was not fragile. He was dangerous. Ellen pressed her back to the wall, her silver eyes wide with fear. "He knows what we are," she said in a whisper. "He is watching us." The human blinked slowly as though trying to understand. He raised his hand again. The same trembling gesture as before. He pointed first at them, then touched his own chest. His voice was rough, but he forced out a word. "Who?" "Man." The sound echoed in their ears. Lyra's breath caught. Sira gasped. Ellen shook her head violently, as though the word itself could wound her. Lyra stepped forward just a little. Her curiosity was stronger than her fear. "What is he saying?" she whispered. "You already know," Ellen snapped. "He is telling us what he is. That word is a warning. He is dangerous." But Lyra shook her head. "No, it is not a warning. It is identity. He is telling us who he is." The human coughed, leaning against the pod for support. His body trembled, but his eyes never left them. He tried to speak again, but the words were broken, lost in his throat. Still, the intent was there. He wanted to communicate. For the first time, Lyra wondered, was he really a monster, or had their people feared him for the wrong reasons? Sira did not share her thought. She pulled at Lyra's arm, panic rising. "Stop looking at him. We should leave before he stands. If he is truly human, he could destroy us all." But the human did not attack. He did not even move closer. Instead, he lowered his head, shoulders rising and falling as if he were gathering strength. Then, slowly, he pressed his hand against the edge of the pod and pushed himself onto his feet. The sound of his bare skin against the metal rang through the chamber. The girls gasped as he stood tall for the first time. He wavered, swaying like a branch in the wind, but there was power in the way he straightened his back, in the way he forced his body to obey. Lyra's silver eyes widened. She had thought him fragile before, soft and weak, but now, standing before them, he did not seem weak at all. He seemed like a force trying to break free from centuries of silence. The chamber's faint lights glowed, brighter, reacting to his presence. Strange symbols lit up on the walls, symbols the alien girls had never seen before. "What is happening?" Ellen whispered, her voice sharp with fear. The human turned his head slowly, noticing the glowing symbols as well. His brow furrowed in confusion, but his attention returned to them quickly. He raised his hand again, this time not in identity, but in peace. His palm faced them, open and steady. Lyra's heart pounded. She understood the gesture instantly. It was not aggression, it was a promise. "I will not harm you." But Sira stepped forward, shaking with rage and fear. "Do not believe him. That is how humans deceive. The stories said they smile before they kill. He will destroy us the moment he has strength." Her voice cracked with panic, but she reached for the control panel at the side of the chamber wall. Her trembling fingers hovered over the ancient symbols, ready to shut the pod and trap him again. The human saw her. His dark eyes flared, and for the first time, his voice rose. Not soft, not broken, but strong. "Stop!" The single word cut through the chamber like a blade. The girls froze. Even the walls seemed to echo with its command. Lyra's breath shook. She had never heard such a voice before. So raw, so full of force. It was not just sound, it was power. Sira stumbled back, her hand slipping away from the controls. She looked at him in horror. He understands us." Ellen's fear deepened. "If he can learn so quickly, what else can he do?" The human's chest rose and fell as he caught his breath. He had spoken their word, their language, even if only one. His eyes softened as he lowered his hand again. He seemed exhausted, yet there was determination in his gaze, something unbreakable. Lyra felt her fear melt into something else, a strange respect. This was no myth, no ghost from the archives. This was a real being, alive and awake, standing in front of them after centuries. The human's lips parted once more. His voice was quiet, broken, but clear enough for them all to hear. Not enemy. The chamber grew silent again. The alien girls stared at him, their hearts caught between fear and something they had never expected. Hope. The chamber felt smaller than before. The air was heavy, filled with the strange rhythm of the human's breathing and the fast, nervous breaths of the alien girls. For the first time, two worlds stood face to face, one of light and energy and one of flesh and bone. The human's words still echoed in their minds. Not enemy. Lyra's heart pounded. She wanted to believe him, yet fear pulled at her thoughts. Could a creature of myth, one said to bring destruction, truly mean peace? Sira did not believe. Her silver eyes burned with distrust as she whispered sharply, "He speaks our word. But that does not make him safe. Humans are clever. They trick. They hide their claws until it is too late." The human's dark gaze shifted to her, calm but sharp. Though he could not understand her words fully, he seemed to feel her hostility. His jaw tightened, and he straightened his back despite his weakness. Lyra stepped between them, raising her glowing hand as if to keep them apart. "Wait," she said firmly, her voice trembling yet strong. "We cannot fight him. Not yet. We do not even know why he is here." Ellen's voice was quiet, almost lost in the heavy silence. "He should not exist. That is reason enough." Her glowing eyes flicked to the walls, where old symbols still shimmered faintly. The pod opened for a purpose. What if it is a signal? What if more are coming? The human tilted his head, his expression shifting as though he could sense the fear in their voices. He raised his hand again, not in threat, but in effort. His fingers curled, then pointed toward the walls where the symbols glowed faintly. He looked back at them, waiting. Lyra followed his gesture, her breath caught. "He knows the symbols," she whispered. The human's lips moved, trying to form sounds, but his throat was rough, his words broken. He pressed his palm against his chest again. "Huh, man, alive." Then he pointed to the pod, to the chamber, and then lifted his hand toward the sky. The girls stared, trying to understand. "He is saying," Lyra spoke slowly, her mind racing. "He is saying he is alive, but he is not alone. The sky, the stars, he is telling us there are more." Sira's body stiffened in horror. "No, do not twist his meaning. He is warning us. He is saying his kind will return to finish what they started." The human shook his head suddenly, as if he had understood her fear even without knowing her words. He took a single step forward, raising his hand in peace again. But even that simple motion made the girls jump back. Ellen hissed sharply, "Stay where you are!" Her voice echoed with fear, but the human froze at once. He raised both hands, palms open, showing no weapon, no threat. His body swayed as though exhaustion pulled him down, yet his gaze remained steady. For a long moment, no one spoke. The clash between their worlds was not of weapons, but of silence, fear, and misunderstanding. Lyra swallowed hard. She could feel the truth pressing at her heart. He was not attacking. He was trying to reach them. "Look at him," she said softly. "He does not wish to harm us." Sira shook her head fiercely. "You are blinded, Lyra. This is how humans survive. They appear weak. They make you lower your guard. Then they strike." The human's eyes moved between them, reading their faces, their fear. He seemed to understand more than they thought. His lips parted once more, and this time his voice came stronger, clearer than before. "Help me." The word was simple, broken, but clear. The chamber fell into silence. The girl's glowing eyes widened. They had not expected him to ask. Lyra's heart twisted. She had never imagined a human would look at her not with fire or rage, but with a plea. For a moment, she saw not a monster, but someone lost and alone. Ellen's voice cracked. "Help him? We cannot. If we help, we may bring doom to us all." But Lyra did not move away. She stepped closer, ignoring Sira's desperate grip on her arm. She met the human's eyes, silver against dark, and spoke slowly, gently, as though her voice could cross the barrier between worlds. "What do you need?" Of course, he did not understand the words, but something in her tone reached him. His body relaxed slightly. He touched his chest again, then gestured weakly to his mouth, his throat, his stomach. Lyra understood instantly. He is hungry. He needs water, food. Sira gasped in anger. And you would give it to him? Feed the monster that will destroy us? But Lyra ignored her. She looked back at the human whose body shook from weakness. She saw in him something she could not explain, not just danger, but resilience, survival. He was alive when no one should have been. The chamber pulsed with tension. 3 alien girls torn between fear and compassion, one human, fragile but unbroken, standing against centuries of myth. Their worlds clashed not with blades or fire, but with choices. Would they treat him as enemy or as life? The human's voice broke the silence once more, rough but pleading. Not enemy, alive. And for the first time, Lyra believed him. The chamber was quiet again, but not peaceful. It was the silence of choice, heavy and sharp like a blade hanging above them. The human stood weakly, one hand still resting against the pod, his body trembling. He had spoken, his voice rough but clear enough to echo in their hearts. Not enemy, alive. Lyra could not forget those words. They repeated in her mind again and again. Her chest felt heavy, her thoughts torn in two. Part of her wanted to run, to leave the chamber and never return. But another part, stronger, louder, wanted to know more. Was this creature truly dangerous, or was he a mystery waiting to be understood? Sira, however, had no doubt. She pulled Lyra back, her silver eyes blazing with fear. We must report this, right now. If the leaders know, they will seal him away. They will protect us. Lyra shook her head. If we tell them, they will kill him. They will erase him and all knowledge of what he is. Don't you see? This is history living in front of us. This is proof that the stories were true. That is exactly why we must stop him, Sira snapped. Her voice echoed across the walls. If one human survived, there could be more. What if this is the beginning of another war? Ellen's voice was softer, but filled with unease. Perhaps Sira is right. Perhaps the safest path is to end this now, before it grows into something we cannot control. Her glowing eyes turned toward the human. He was breathing heavily, his skin pale, his frame shaking from weakness. Yet his gaze remained sharp, watching them closely. He could not understand their words, but he could feel the weight of their debate. He was not just a body in a pod. He was alive, aware, and waiting. Lyra stepped closer, ignoring the fear in her friends' faces. She looked at him carefully, at the strong lines of his body, the scars on his skin, the fire in his dark eyes. He was fragile compared to their glowing forms, but he carried something else, something they lacked. Strength of will. Curiosity burned in her chest. She wanted to know how he had survived for so long, why the pod had been hidden, and what his kind had been truly like. She wanted to know if the myths were lies or truths twisted by fear. He is not what the story said, she whispered. Look at him. He is weak, starving, lost. Does this look like a destroyer to you? Sira hissed. That is how it begins. They appear weak, they make you feel pity, and then, when your guard is down, they strike. I will not be fooled. The human tilted his head. Sensing the conflict even without words, he raised his hand slowly, carefully, his palm open. He pointed to his throat, then made the motion of drinking. His voice came again, faint, but clear. Water. Lyra's eyes widened. He had spoken another word, a simple need but powerful in meaning. He was not demanding, he was asking. Ellen gasped softly. He learned so quickly. Sira stepped back, shaking her head in horror. No, this is proof. If he can learn our words this fast, what will happen when he learns everything else? He will become dangerous again. Lyra ignored her fear. She turned to the human, her glowing eyes soft with compassion. He needs us, she said. If he wanted to harm us, he would have tried already. But instead, he asks for water, for life. The human looked at her, his dark eyes meeting her silver ones. For a moment, it felt as if they understood each other without language. But the chamber was divided. Sira's fear grew stronger, twisting into anger. She clenched her fists. You cannot trust him, Lyra. If you help him, you betray us all. You put our world in danger. Ellen's voice trembled, caught between both sides. Maybe Lyra is right. Maybe he is not like the stories say. But what if he is? What if helping him brings death to us all? Lyra's heart raced. The weight of choice pressed down on her. She could not convince them with words alone. The truth would only be known through action. She stepped toward the wall, touching a hidden panel. A compartment opened with a soft glow, revealing a container of purified water stored for emergencies. She held it in her hands, glowing liquid shimmering inside. Sierra gasped in horror. "No, don't give it to him!" But Lyra ignored her cries. She walked slowly to the human, her steps careful, her heart pounding. She lifted the container and held it out. The human's eyes widened. His trembling hand reached forward, but he stopped just short of touching it. He looked at her face first, waiting for permission, waiting for trust. Lyra nodded once. His hand closed around the container, and he drank greedily. The water spilled down his chin, but his eyes closed in relief. For the first time, he looked less like a ghost and more like a living being. When he finished, he whispered again, voice rough but grateful. "Thank you." Lyra's chest tightened. He had learned gratitude. Ellen stared in silence, conflicted. Sierra shook with rage. "You have doomed us," she said. "You have just given life to a monster." But Lyra only whispered back, more to herself than anyone else. "No, I have given life to the truth." The chamber seemed to grow darker, heavier. Curiosity and fear clashed like fire and water, neither side winning, neither side ending. The human was alive now, stronger, and the choice of what he would become rested in their hands. The chamber no longer felt cold. It was alive now, buzzing with a strange energy that none of the girls could explain. The human had drunk the water, his body trembling less than before. His chest rose more steadily, his eyes clearer, sharper. Lyra watched him closely. She felt a strange relief, but also a rising tension deep inside her. By giving him life, she had made a choice she could not undo. Sierra paced in the shadows, her glowing eyes burning with anger. "This is madness," she hissed. "Look at him. Already he grows stronger. You feed him, and soon he will rise against us." Ellen stood silently, torn between both sides. Her gaze shifted from the human to Lyra, then back to the glowing walls. The ancient symbols flickered faintly, as if responding to his presence. The human noticed them too. His eyes followed the glowing marks etched into the stone. Slowly, he reached out his hand, brushing his fingertips against the symbols. The moment his skin touched the wall, the entire chamber pulsed with light. The girls gasped in shock. The symbols flared bright blue, racing across the walls like fire spreading through dry grass. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the pod behind him hummed loudly, as though it had been waiting for this very moment. Lyra's breath caught. "What is happening?" The human stepped back, staring at his own hand as if he did not understand either. The symbols continued to glow, filling the chamber with an otherworldly light. Ellen whispered, her voice shaking. "The chamber. It recognizes him." Sierra's voice cracked with fear. "No, this is proof. He is dangerous. He controls the old power." The human turned toward them, confusion clear on his face. He shook his head quickly, raising his hands as if to deny what they thought. But the chamber did not stop. The lights grew stronger, and a low hum filled the air, vibrating in their bones. Lyra's heart pounded. She could see the fear in his eyes. He was not trying to control the chamber. He was struggling against it. But still, the power answered him. The pod behind him opened wider, revealing hidden mechanisms. A hologram flickered to life above it, shimmering in the air. It was an image, blurry, distorted, but recognizable. A planet. Blue oceans, green lands, clouds swirling above. The human stared at it with wide eyes. His lips trembled, whispering a word that none of the girls understood, but they felt the weight of it. Earth. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She had never heard the word before, but something in the sound filled her with awe. This was his home, his world. Sierra recoiled in horror. "Do you see? This is his message. He calls to his people. He wants them to return." But Lyra shook her head, her voice firm despite her fear. "No, he is not calling them. He is remembering. This is not a weapon. It is a memory." The human touched the hologram with trembling fingers. The image shifted, scenes flashing in the air. Cities filled with tall towers, machines flying through skies, children running, laughing, and then fire, explosions, war. The girls gasped. The images showed battles, destruction, chaos. They saw humans fighting each other, tearing their own world apart, and then the image faded into silence. Ellen whispered, her voice hollow. "They destroyed themselves." Lyra's chest tightened. The stories had always painted humans as monsters who threatened others, but the truth was more complex. They had not been destroyed by an alien war. They had destroyed themselves. The human's eyes lowered, his shoulders heavy with grief. He whispered again, voice rough and broken. All gone. Lyra's heart ached. She understood. He was the proof of survival. He was the last remnant of a fallen world. But Sira was not moved. She stepped forward, her voice sharp with fury. Do not let him trick you. He shows destruction because it is all he knows. If more humans live, they will bring the same fire here. Do you want our world to burn? The human's eyes narrowed at her words, as if he could feel her hatred even without knowing the language. His chest rose sharply, and for the first time power flickered around him. The air shifted. The light in the chamber bent slightly, drawn toward him like metal to a magnet. His dark eyes glowed faintly, not like theirs but with something deeper, rawer. Lyra gasped. Do you feel that? Ellen's voice trembled. Yes. It is his will, his life force. It is strong. The human clenched his fists, his body shaking as though trying to contain it. The symbols on the walls pulsed brighter, then dimmed again, reacting to his struggle. And then, as suddenly as it began, the power faded. He collapsed against the pod, gasping for breath, sweat dripping from his brow. The chamber grew silent once more. Sira pointed at him with trembling hands. Do you see now? He hides power inside him, power we cannot understand. If he learns to use it, he will destroy us all. But Lyra's voice was steady, though her heart raced. No, he does not want to destroy. He fights against it. That power is not his weapon, it is his curse. Ellen stood between them, her eyes full of fear and wonder. Whether curse or gift, one thing is certain. He is not like us. He is more than we imagined. The human lifted his head, his eyes locking onto Lyra's. His voice was weak but clear. Not last. The word sent chills down their spines. If he was not the last human, then others were out there. And if they carried the same hidden power, the galaxy was not safe. The chamber was filled with silence, but it was not the silence of peace. It was heavy, tense, ready to break at any moment. The human's last words still echoed in the girls' minds. Not last. Lyra's silver eyes widened. Her heart skipped a beat. If he was not the last human, then somewhere, beyond the stars, others like him still lived. Ellen pressed her back against the wall, her face pale. If he speaks truth, then the old fear is real. Humanity did not vanish. They only hid. Sira's voice broke into a harsh whisper, almost trembling. Then this is the end. If more humans survive, they will rise again. They will burn the stars like before. The human's dark eyes shifted between them. He could not understand their words, but he could feel their fear. His body shook from weakness, yet his gaze was strong, unyielding. He pressed his hand against his chest and repeated slowly, not last, more, come. The words struck them like thunder. Lyra's breath trembled, but instead of stepping back, she moved closer. He does not mean war, she whispered. Listen to him, his eyes. They carry sorrow, not conquest. Sira pulled her away sharply. Do not be fooled. He carries power inside him. You saw it. The walls, the symbols, the light, they answered to him. If more humans exist, and they all hold this hidden strength, then our world is doomed. The chamber lights flickered faintly, as if echoing Sira's fear. The human straightened his back, despite the pain in his body. His presence filled the room again, quiet but undeniable. He lifted his hand toward the stars drawn in the glowing symbols. Then he spoke. One more broken sentence, his voice firm. Humans, return. The air grew colder. Even Lyra's curiosity trembled under the weight of those words. She stared at him, torn between awe and dread. Ellen whispered, her voice hollow. If this is true, then everything we know will change. The leaders will panic. The council will declare war before humans even arrive. Sira's hands clenched into fists. Then we must stop him now, before his words spread, before others hear. Her eyes burned with fury. She reached for a shard of broken crystal lying on the floor, its sharp edge glowing faintly. She raised it with trembling hands, pointing it at the human. If I end him here, no one will ever know. Lyra gasped and stepped in front of him, her arms spread wide. No, do not touch him. Sira's voice cracked with rage. Stand aside, Lyra. You let curiosity blind you, but I see the truth. He is the spark of fire. If we let it grow, our world will burn. The human did not move. He stood silently behind Lyra, watching, his chest rising and falling, his dark eyes locked on the glowing shard. He made no attempt to fight back, no attempt to defend. Lyra's voice shook, but her resolve was strong. If you strike him, you do not save our world. You destroy the truth. You destroy hope. Ellen's voice trembled as she whispered, Hope, or doom. The chamber trembled again. The pod behind them hissed loudly, releasing one final burst of energy. The hologram flickered back to life, this time showing not Earth, but stars. A map. Thousands of points of light scattered across the galaxy. Lines connected them, pulsing faintly. Routes, paths, journeys. And among them, faint blue dots glowed brighter. Sira dropped the shard in shock. "What is this?" Lyra's voice was breathless. "These are signals. The pod is showing us other places, other humans." The human raised his hand weakly, pointing toward the map. His voice was broken, but his words were clear. "Not alone." The girls stared in stunned silence. The hologram pulsed brighter, as if confirming his claim. Humans had not vanished. They had scattered. They had survived. Ellen whispered, almost to herself, "If this is true, then they are already coming back." Fear surged through Sira. She turned to run. "We must tell the council. They must prepare." But Lyra caught her arm. "No, if the council learns, they will kill him and then destroy everything connected to him. We must keep this secret, at least until we know the truth." Sira ripped her arm free. Her glowing eyes flared. "And if you are wrong, if more humans arrive tomorrow and they bring war, then their blood will be on your hands." She stormed toward the chamber door, her footsteps echoing like thunder. Ellen stood frozen, her heart torn. "Lyra, what if she is right? What if this leads to destruction?" Lyra turned back to the human, who stood quietly beside her. His body was weak, but his eyes burned with life. He looked at her not as an enemy, but as someone begging to be understood. Lyra whispered softly, more to herself than anyone else. "Or what if it leads to something greater?" The hologram pulsed one last time before fading into silence. The chamber grew dark, leaving only the faint glow of the walls and the steady breathing of the human. In that silence, one truth remained. The clash between their worlds had only just begun, and above them, in the endless sky, the stars waited, holding secrets, holding answers, holding the return of humanity.